live, by the way. Welcome to what is today? Wednesday night Magma Cup. We have Glass versus Billygoats, and we have a special guest star. Could you say your name, please, sir?
Hi everybody, this is Alex. I am also known as Bodrum. Good to see you all today on this cast.
This is the
Uh,
first time we've had Bodrum in a while. When is the last time you have casted, sir?
I may have casted one of the matches this last ACFL season, maybe. It may have been like a post-match interview. It's been a while.
Oh yeah, okay. So what do you? Let's talk about the teams a little bit. We
Oh yes,
have for
let's.
Billygoats, Ixaquis, Molten, Meki, and Lewis's first time in the arena as a Billygoat this season.
That'll
And
be
then
exciting.
and we have Sabian, Simiad, Arok, and Ferg. What are your thoughts on the Glass team?
Uh,
Very hitter oriented.
just give me a quick moment to remember who everybody is. What's a Simiad? No, I mean they clearly have a high damage team that's going to be problematic. They have no clerical, so there are some openings for making some moves. Maybe they could get some blinds to land at key points if they can whittle the team down. The big issue is Galaglass will destroy in the first fight, and the Billygoats need to have a way to come back and whittle them down after that. So this is going to be tough for them.
I think if
But
Billygoats have
I'm
any,
excited for a Billygoats match. So
I think if Billygoats have any chance of winning, Lewis will have to keep a lot of people choked. And because Sabian's the Scald, he has to choke Sabian first. It'll be really tough, but we'll see.
I mean, I've seen those ninja darts do a pretty good job of knocking people out, but I mean, with Sabian being there, with the assassin,
It's
yeah,
hard,
this is
yes.
they're gonna have to deal with their own team getting choked, and with flash blind, and with dirt kicks, and yeah, it's gonna be a tough match.
As Alan and I have said before, every match this season has been 3-0. Do you think this will hold true tonight as well?
I did not actually realize that, but yes, I will assume this is going to be a 3-0 match.
Okay.
If I'm not betting, but if I was, it would probably be on Gallo. But like most people, I am hoping for a funny team upset, so a Billy Goat upset. One day they'll be a permanent team. I think we all know that. So
Glass will secure the number 2 seed in Division 1 if they win, which means they will play KCS in semifinal 2 on Saturday, which is a pretty tough matchup, right?
yeah, obviously I think KCS is going to do very well in that matchup. I don't think Gallo will be able to kind of fight at that caliber. I think similar to the ACFL season, obviously Hydra and KCS are the scary teams in Magma. I actually have not been paying good attention to know where the Brute Squad ended up, but I
They have
assume
one
that
win. They're 1
right.
and 2.
Mhm.
Yeah. We have 15 seconds before we start.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we're off.
The first engagement, very exciting.
I don't see it. They're just sitting around. Oh, looks like Simeon. Look, Arok's on Ixaquis.
Ooh, as we discussed earlier, just a lot of damage coming out of the Gallo team. Ixaquis, who would possibly be considered the tank on their team, is already in yellow.
I don't see where Meki's nowhere near that team. Ixaquis is
Yeah,
already in red, and he got double disarmed.
yeah, I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. It looks like their team got mixed up. Meki is in the 10-yard blue, while Ixaquis is dying at the red line,
I think
and
what
he goes
happened
down.
is because some of the people are new to ACFL, they didn't manually leave the prep room.
Right. Yeah,
Expected to
that wouldn't
complete it.
surprise me.
Well, that's bad news because Ixaquis was their tank pretty much.
Right. Though he didn't do a very good job tanking, so maybe
Yeah.
maybe it wouldn't have mattered.
It looks like they're just gonna kill Lewis now. There's not much they can do. And this is the worst start possible for Billygoats.
Yeah, I mean it's really tough. We're 5 seasons in. Galaglass has been around since the first season, so if you're still trying to figure out how to exit the prep room, it's hard not to get a little stomped on,
Okay, while
unfortunately.
we're on this topic, because there's a big dichotomy between the experienced and inexperienced people in ACFL, but
Mhm.
there's no way to practice ACFL. Do you feel like that's something we should be changing, or just keep ACFL by itself and like not be able to practice it as much?
With DSL and kind of the whole text-based issue, without having a room composition, like it's hard to kind of explain to someone without drawing it on a napkin what the
Hmm.
arena looks like. And even though it's just a box with little pinch points at the end, you get lost the first time you're in there no matter what. Even the like we've had people who, on their fifth match ever are still kind of losing track of where they are
Yeah,
in the
agreed.
arena, forgetting which side the flags are on. So I feel like at least from a perspective of we need like an area that looks like it, just to help players get used to it, would be useful.
Hmm.
I understand where Scorn's coming from and not wanting, teams to be able to practice per se. It's kind of how he's never made AGL practice that easy because it
Hmm.
makes the fights more interesting because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we're having a huge fight, so we should stop. We should stop chit
Lewis is in
chatting.
red. Molten was doing pretty good damage. Now Meki's
Yeah,
in red. Simi, I just
yeah,
hit Meki like 20 times.
yeah. This is
This is as we
as
expected would happen.
yeah. It's just a lot of melee damage. Everyone on Gallo Glass is an offensive stance. So
Yeah, I guess
they're
they can
coming out
all dual
strong.
wield. That's a lot of hitting.
hmm I think I'd love to see Gallo Glass find a way to delay this as long as possible, just to at least get some respawns in and do some more damage. Again, there's very little healing and very little. Well, there's no curatives really at all, but
Yeah.
there's the lack of healing means they could try and whittle down Gallo Glass, but they just haven't gotten any damage out. I think, as you
And he
mentioned, they
just
had one
choked
person
Sabian at
landing
the bottom
hits.
of a tick, which is bad. Now
Yeah.
Lewis is choked.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is unfortunate. Very unfortunate. But I think it goes back to our conversation regarding feeling comfortable in there. It's a standard skill to know when to choke compared to the tick,
Hmm.
but when you're trying to even remember where you are, it can be hard to manage all those other small things that you usually get to focus on. Not to say that Lewis is new to the arena or anything, but
Yep.
um, he doesn't get used as much as I'm sure he would want.
Okay, so you've won ACFL multiple times, right? So you know what it's like to be at the top. Now,
Of
Gallo
course.
Glass on paper, we've touched on this before, is a really good team, but they haven't quite put it all together, right? So what do you think is missing in their dynamic?
I mean, obviously, consistency is key. Stars, from our perspective, have always done well, but those seasons where we actually got the championship was because we kind of had like a core four that could take on all the hard teams every time.
Hmm.
People have talked about having fluid teams that could change people out. I think that works for the season, but the championship teams always have to have like a real core four.
No, I agree.
It's usually not possible to have like an easy swap out for a championship match. Um, I think the issue with Gallowglass then has it that their attendance has been kind of flaky. So during the season, they had very good teams, but they were never all used to playing with each other,
Yep.
which always created, weak link scenarios so the other team could take
So they don't
advantage.
have the experience playing against the really good teams.
Exactly, and they don't have enough experience with each other. So
Yeah,
they have good players, but unless they're having a good core team playing together all the time, it's
yeah,
just not going to happen.
agreed.
And I think some people are mentioning this is a good practice match for Gallo, but as we are seeing right now on the screen, it's just kind of, they're kind of standing there and the enemy's taking damage. So I don't know if they're getting to practice much either.
Yeah, I mean, if they just win and stomp 3-0 every time and they don't deal with like what happens when they have to play KCS and Hydra, they don't know how to adjust on the fly, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah,
Because when things go bad in ACFL, they can really go bad.
yeah.
Simi
'Cause I
actually
think,
gets spell blinded
oh yeah,
by Exequies, I'm guessing.
I wonder if he'll cancel or, I mean, right now he's still hitting, so he has no reason to cancel yet.
Mackey's in red, Exequies is in yellow, Sabian's just walking across. Meki is in red,
Mech,
deep red. Lewis wimpied off that hit.
if Meki's probably going down right now, I avoided. Yep, I would say Meki's going down right there.
And there goes Becky.
Mm-hmm.
Simeon apparently probably didn't bless because he's getting maledicted a lot.
Yeah, and to whoever is landing that plague, uh, there's not a real reason to do that. Plague is actually not that powerful of a spell, so I feel like a weaken would have actually been better in that case, as a thought, just to whoever was
And
throwing
there's
some
Lewis
spells out there.
dies. Lewis got dispelled? Maybe?
I think Lewis is by himself. It looks like it was a cancel. Yeah, he's
Okay.
canceling. I
Okay,
don't know
he's
why.
canceled.
I didn't notice him get blinded. Might just be. I might have missed it.
And there goes Molten. Looks like, yeah, I think he's trying to cancel his blind. And there's 2-0. Okay, so this is a thing I've seen with Gallowglass. Maybe it doesn't matter in this matchup, but they don't stack the caps properly ever.
There's a cap stacking is very important when you're trying to rush the flag.
Yeah.
I think one of the points that I was going to make is that yes, you need to get used to the arena, and that's something that a lot of teams are lacking.
Uh-huh.
And then getting used to playing with each other. Once you get to the high caliber team, then it's how good you are at managing death, and because once you're at the championship level, there's no 3-0s usually.
It's always 3-2, so you have to be careful
Right.
how you die and things like that.
Right. So it's very important to learn how to manage death. And while flag I always, the concept of stacking caps is perfectly fine when you're saying there's no one to stop you. Stars, I mean, not that we've done well this last season, but in general, we don't ever do stacking if we're like actively in combat. Even if we're winning the fight and we know we're going to pick up the flag again, who picks up the flag can be very important. That's the person you're putting in the most danger. And so part of controlling deaths is controlling who
I
has the
mean,
flag.
you can decide beforehand to pick up the flag, but obviously things don't always go the way you want in the arena, so you have to decide on
Right.
the fly who becomes the flag carrier.
Right.
Yeah.
And some of those calls can be tough. I mean, there's sometimes you can benefit from it, but you want to have an extra rescue or something along those lines, and that has you want to keep someone out of combat. So it can be tough.
Yeah.
Kind of depends on who you're playing. As an example, if this was Stars against KCS, Bodrum would most likely never, ever pick up the flag. It's just he's just going to get a troll on him, and that kind of ruins his day. So
You need the flexibility to just go where you want on the field, basically. Okay, it's a 3-0, but since it ended pretty fast, like 15 minutes, I'm going to ask some questions for you, sir.
sure, let's go ahead and just mention great job, Billy Goats. I don't know, was
I,
this
I
their
would
last
like to
fight for
point out
the
that
Magma Cup?
Billygoats always show up, so that's good on their part.
Oh yeah, they should be very proud.
So, I mean, that's pretty... Alright, so obviously everyone knows you had a spell named after you.
I did.
Have you used it much, and what do you think about it?
So this is probably leading to your future questions. Um, when the spell came out, I was online, so I did get to use it a little bit. All I got to really do was cast it on myself, just see what it did. The next day, it seems like it got nerfed a few times. Apparently, some people were messing around with it a little bit too much. Um, I have not been able to use it in PvP, in PK. Unfortunately, I am currently a renegade, and part of the nerfs to Bodrum's Boils is that people outside of Conclave cannot really cast it. He worded the change note that it's harder to cast, but it doesn't seem to do anything when I'm casting it now.
So,
So,
it probably has a really low land rate.
I mean, it could be that. I mean, considering it's auto land when it does work, and now I can't seem to make it work, I assume it's very close to 5% land rate or less or something.
Okay.
So it's a great ability. I liked it when I saw it. It's really strong. It's an ability necromancers would use. It's not one of the ones that would like drop off the face of the earth like Bone Blight and Scourge. You'll never see me use an ACFL.
Because it's so
Even
mana intensive, right?
exactly. Even with my mana pool, it's just
I believe
both a
Scourge
waste of
is
time
what,
and
90 or
mana.
120 or something crazy.
I believe it's 100.
It's You should go check right now because you play a
It
Necro.
is. I can check. It is 100. And even Bone Blight, it's just, it just doesn't land well enough.
Yeah.
Black Curse, I sometimes use in ACFL just because it has a better land rate. But even then, I mean, the Necromancer's spell costs are just so high. And Bodrum's Boils is actually not any different in that sense. Bodrum's Boils is 40 mana, which, this is more expensive than Chain Lightning. So I think it's still pretty mana intensive. Luckily, it's not like as crazy as Black Curse, Bone Blight. So I'm glad Bodrum's Boils is going to get use from PKing Necromancers in Conclave. I don't know if there's any of those now left.
All right,
But
while
it's
we're
a good
on
spell.
that topic, how do you feel about losing your star?
Yeah. So I'm not going to try and get too emotional.
Okay.
Um, but, that star, which is just a star, it's just a weird star in my title, technically was the greatest achievement in gaming I've ever had. And I feel like some temper tantrums caused that to go away. So I'm a bit bitter. But at the
Would you
same
say you're
time,
missing a part of yourself?
sure, yeah, there's something's missing now. I went to bed that night and I felt like something was off. I'm getting over it. People have been very nice about it. People on DSL are always very nice when you lose something. So, fight through it.
Do you think you were treated unfairly in this process?
Uh, Clearly, I think that most likely, if I was, or if I actually am at fault, then I'll probably still think that. But indeed, I think I was treated a bit unfairly. I do think the situation is a bit weird. Um,
Would you say the
the whole
timing is very coincidental?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I had Bodrum's Boils for 2 days. It just hit 100%, and then I was renegated, especially 5 minutes before an ACFL match. So at the very least, it was a very symbolic timing. Part of the reason it was not overturned is because Conclave was able to defend that they've been planning it for a while, and that I have apparently been a problem for a while. So, yeah, there's that. But I thought the timing was quite humorous. I want my spell back, but I don't think that's how that
Well,
works.
okay, timing-wise, it's better to do it now than like right before the Magma Cup Finals match, I suppose, right?
Right. I mean, I obviously this has been a tough Magma Cup, and we had a tough season without Azula last season. So I personally have always been a bit more pessimistic than the rest of my team when it comes to stuff like finals. I think it's going to be really tough for us to succeed in we're making it to playoffs in Magma, but we're gonna have both a hard time with Hydra and KCS. So it would have sucked if it was 5 minutes before then, but I am not sure if that's gonna end up mattering in the end. So we'll see how that plays out.
Looks like there's going to be AGL, but
Oh,
I
all
cannot
poppin'.
stay for AGL.
That's fascinating. Well, any more questions then before we
I think today we'll keep it fairly PG oriented, but if I get you on cast again for the playoffs, I think I'll ask a little tougher questions for you.
I cannot wait. I'm
Because I
very
mean,
excited.
inquiring DSL minds want to know what's inside the head of Alex and Vari. I mean, come on.
Oh, I'm glad. I don't know if I think people just like seeing the chaos in Conclave sometimes. But if people want answers, I will gladly answer.
Well, actually, let's preview the rest of the Magma Cup real quick. So
Mhm.
tomorrow we have KCS against Gantz. Now, what do you think about the Minotaur's chance against a Troll Barbarian damage-wise?
I thought the Gantz team was actually remarkably strong. Again, that's kind of skewed because they had Duxadum, and I can't hurt him, so that our whole team can't hurt him. But unrelated to that, if it was just a regular Minotaur Invoker, I think they still have a very strong team. But their team comp, the way it is going to get smushed by a melee-heavy team.
Do you think
So,
they can control the beast known as Grendel?
no, I don't think they really like their team was good because they were like resilient, tanky. They were really good at whittling you down. They're not. I don't think they're going to have the same success they had against the Stars versus KCS.
The
I think
Stars don't
KCS
really
is
have
going
a
to
true good melee, I guess, and KCS is very melee heavy, right?
exactly. And KCS is not really one of those teams you whittle down. You kind of have to like burst. they're going to burst you better, but you have to like take someone down on their team to slow them down. You can't just like play the long game against KCS. And the Gantz team is really good at that. From what I saw, is going to be really good at that long game. I think they would have done really well against Hydra. Hydra tends to be a very healing-intensive team, but I think KCS is going to do a really good job crushing them. Similar to, again, I think they are like the Hydra team, so it's kind of how KCS does really well against Hydra. I think KCS will also do really well against the Gantz team. It's very tanky, very long game oriented.
So you'd say the end of the regular season would be another 3-0, you would think?
Yeah, I'm not expecting Gantz to be able to get a flag cap against KCS. So,
all right.
Yep.
On Friday we have semifinal 1, and it will be Hydra versus Stars. Now, what are your predictions for that match?
I actually haven't been paying full attention to see who's been showing up for Hydra. Obviously, that would matter. Obviously, it matters for the Stars as well. Magma Cup is great, but because the ACFL season hasn't started strong, people don't have their schedules ready for it yet.
Agreed.
So again, obviously, it depends on who attends. Hydra has the same issue. We have the same issue against Hydra that we used to have against Ixodom, is that we really don't have an answer for an Invoker. We do have melee players on our team, and they're great, but all of them, kind of similar to what we were discussing earlier, are pretty new to the ACFL arena. I think all of our melee characters, they didn't have previous ACFL characters when we drafted them, and I think we only drafted them last season. So they don't. That becomes an issue, especially against the pro teams, because the pro teams like to pick on the newest person on the enemy team, even if it's not the most strategic choice.
Agreed.
So whenever we do play a melee character, we know they're the target, and that makes everything a little bit more difficult. So.
Okay, semifinal 2, we touched on this a little bit earlier. We have KCS versus Gallowglass, and you predicted that Gallowglass probably wouldn't score. Do you still feel like that is accurate?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to say Gallowglass will not score.
Okay. So which means KCS will probably go to the finals, and we'll get either Stars or Hydra, which is pretty much what happened last season, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of ACFL Season 6?
Yep.
We're going to 7, right? So Season 6.
Yep.
So I'm expecting a Hydra KCS finals, and my money would be on KCS. I think Hydra can put up a really good fight, but I think even if both teams pull up their best teams, KCS should win, and I think Hydra's going to have a harder time getting attendance than KCS will.
One final thing, since this was actually mentioned before. So Magma Cup, there is actually no real home field advantage because you don't get to switch. But during the regular season, there is the home field advantage where you can switch one person. Do you feel like that has any impact whatsoever? And if it doesn't, what would a suggestion be to change it?
Ooh, that is a really good question. Well, if anyone was listening to during the match, we were kind of discussing my concept of that whole 4-core player concept. I don't think it's ever mattered. I think I've never been surprised by a team that was put up against us in playoffs. And it's not because they weren't experimenting. It's because we knew they would struggle if they swapped out. So most every team does come up with 2 lineups for a playoff match to try and take advantage of that sort of thing, but it always ends up coming down to putting your 4 most experienced players, no matter the class, in a sense. Once you get to the higher level, mistakes are too heavy.
I mean, you touched on this earlier, but I mean, you can have someone to switch in, but I feel like you wouldn't have the practice with that team, because if it's only for one matchup, like, you wouldn't get the practice as that team during the regular season.
Exactly, and I could see a few niche scenarios, like Invoker versus, like, maybe Bodrum won't go in as an example, but I mean, this is just very rare, and even then, this isn't a one-on-one AGL match, so even sometimes those hard counters are not as relevant. Like, the problem with our Stars and Invokers is they counter our entire team. Swapping in one hitter doesn't really solve that problem for us right now.
Okay.
So yeah, as far as changing it for the future, I don't know. I'd probably have to think about that a bit longer. I don't know if it would be yeah, it's a tough choice. I mean, theoretically, I would say to make it stronger for playoffs, let them change anyone on your team instead of just one person. But again, I don't think that just makes it stronger. So theoretically, they could swap out 2 people if we're talking like a team that really has a deep roster.
I don't think there's any team that has that deep a roster, though.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it's a slightly more flexibility. Maybe someone logged in 5 minutes after the match started. I don't know. So yeah, I would think it has to not be a roster mechanic, and I don't know what I would think of to do that.
Okay, my last thing is actually for the DSL player base a little bit. So
Mhm.
Grushk hasn't been proven to be reliable for casting, and this actually happened in Season 6 finals. But if Allen wins the first match and I win the second match, we will need someone to cast.
Oh,
Because obviously neither of us can cast while playing. So,
that's wow. I wonder who'll do it.
I mean, I'm just putting it out there. If anyone wants to cast, just ask me or Alan and we can have help you guys set it up. Or I think didn't Sean do it once last time? Sagash did it right one time
Um,
or twice in
I
finals. Maybe he could do it. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know if it was Sagash or if it was Azure.
I think they did
One
it
of those two.
together.
Oh yeah, all right. But yeah, no, I mean, I personally have never done it before, so the technicalities might be a bit of a headache. Those two have before, so I'd probably
I mean,
acquiesce to
we
them.
won't know till Sunday. If
hmm
me or Alan is not in the finals, one of us will undoubtedly cast. So,
hmm
but on the chance, I mean, it's probable that Hydra and KCS get the finals. That we'll need someone to take over.
Right. Um, I appreciate you having me on. I
No
really
problem.
do. It's actually really nice when I get to cast a game. I actually get to pay more attention to the game. Gives me a good reason for it. So thank you for having me.
No problem.
I actually have to go worry about AGL right now, so I
I actually
unfortunately
have to go do something else as well, but thank you, and I will post
wonderful.
this on YouTube as and post the link on forums as usual. And I will not be here tomorrow, obviously, but I believe Alan will cast, so look, he will be on the DSL streaming Twitch. Have a good night, everyone, and don't bet on Bodrum.
Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.